This video is going to be featuring our new BotaniCuts Crocus dye. It's the latest addition to our BotaniCuts dye series and it's perfect for spring. So I get a lot of questions about how I color my BotaniCuts dyes, and so I thought I'd go ahead and put this video together for you and show you how I color these crocus die cuts. So today we're going to be going for this look. I'll do a purple flower and also a yellow flower. And in order to do these, I use Distress Oxide inks with some finger sponge daubers and then also some colored pencils to add some additional shading. So let's go ahead and get started. I have already die cut my crocus from white cardstock. I have it positioned onto a sticky mat. This is a sticky mat that's designed to go with the Cricut electronic cutting machines. I cut them down and I use them for this instead. It holds all my bits and pieces in place. It's sticky so they don't those little pieces are a little bit easier to work with and don't move around on me. So included with your die, you'll receive an assembly guide. These are really simple to put together, especially when you have the guide. The guide also gives you a little bit of coloring tips if you look closely at it. You'll see the different shades of color on the parts of the flower. So I found that I like to start the layers in the back of the flower a lighter color and then working darker as I get towards the more front or top layers. So that's kind of indicated on the guide as well. So we're going to go ahead and start coloring one. I have already pulled out the pieces that are green, that like the leafy grassy parts, and so I pulled those out so that I don't accidentally add color to those. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I have some shaded lilac, and this piece right here is the backmost petal of this flower. So we're going to start with the lightest colors on that back piece and just start sponging some color. Going to work our way darker as we get towards the more front petals. I have shaded lilac, villainous potion, and blueprint sketch are the colors I'm going to be using. This part that I'm sponging right now is the frontmost petals of the flower. And so we're going to try to get those just a little bit darker. So I started at the top with the villainous violet, and then I'm going to work my way down here with some blueprint sketch and get this really pretty bluish purple. Blueprint sketch has got to probably be one of my all-time favorite oxide colors. All right, so our sponging is looking good. We're going to go ahead and move on to adding some shading with colored pencils. And once again, just use the same principle. I'm going to move from light to dark as we go from back to front. So I have kind of a bluish colored pencil, and my favorite method for adding shading is just to kind of follow the embossed lines with just some simple light pencil strokes. It just adds a real light and airy shading to those petals. And you can build up those strokes until you have as dark a color as you want. You can also add some kind of to the top of the petals as well. It's really all there is to it. I'm just going to move on and do the same thing. I have a pencil that's just a little bit darker and move on to this next petal. And then once again, I'll take my darkest pencil and move to what is the front or top petal of the flower. So now I popped out those pieces that we wanted to make purple, and I'm going to put in the leafy parts instead so we can add some green to those. So I have my two favorite shades of Distress Oxide Green. I have Peeled Paint and Rustic Wilderness. And I'm just gonna add some shading to these, and just some sponging to these as well. I'm using the lighter green up on the tips of the leaves and then I'll go in with a darker color towards the base. And you can add some colored pencil shading to these as well if you'd like, although it's really probably not necessary. They're pretty fine and dainty pieces. There's not a lot of space there. The inking looks pretty good on its own, but if you think it needs a little bit of shading, just go ahead and add some with your colored pencils as well. So now we can go ahead and assemble this flower. It's all colored. I'm just going to refer to my guide and layer all of those pieces together. Just add some adhesive down on the stem portions. That's where they get attached together. Layer that petal over the top of the back petal, and then this front one gets layered over as well. And then if you want to add a little dimension, I like to take a pencil and just give some of these petals a little bit of a curve. And then we can go ahead and add the leaves too. Again, just adding some adhesive down along the stem. And that gets layered over the top, so it hides the base of those petals. Now I'm going to color my second flower, and we're going to make this one yellow, and I'm just going to use the same basic idea, work my way from light to dark as the petals go from back to front. I have scattered straw and mustard seed and wild honey. I might also toss in a little bit of carved pumpkin. We'll see how that top petal is turning out as we get to it. And I am going to add some carved pumpkin, just more to the base bottom portion of this front petal, just kind of in this V area right there. And again, we're just going to add some colored pencil shading using the same technique we used before, just some really light strokes down in, following along with those embossed lines on the petals. Just continue making light strokes until you have the amount of color built up that you want. So our pieces for our second flower are all colored, and we're going to go ahead and just assemble those. They all just get layered, just like the first flower. Add some adhesive to the bottom portion of each petal. Follow the guide as far as which pieces get layered. You can bend the petals, and again, maybe just curl them a little bit for dimension. And there's our second crocus flower. So it's fun to play around with color. Here's a card that I did that uses the purple and yellow like we colored today. They also come in more of a pinky color, which is a fun combination as well. To do those, I used a combination of Victorian Velvet, Kitsch Flamingo, and Seedless Preserves. So that's another fun color combination to play around with. And of course, use your imagination and make them whatever color you'd like. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this peek at our new BotaniCuts Crocus die, and I think you'll love using this die on your spring cards.